Alright, welcome back to the next part of Budget Racers Subaru WRX build. So we're at Emerald Coast Motorsports, of course.
It should look familiar.
Just an F-250, that was whack.
Should look familiar.
Yeah, this should look very familiar actually. We're in the dyno room, of course. The main shop is across the way over there. But we are privileged enough to have our own workbench area. So I would assume that people are going to see our torn apart WRX.
Yeah.
So if you want to come pay to get your car dynoed, you can see our WRX torn apart. So we're going to lay on all the parts that we have, of course, on the bench and break down the rest of the engine. And then disassemble all the various bits and pieces, get it down to the block, and then do the rest of that teardown.
Yep.
Let's get to getting.
Atmospheric alignment.
So we're making really good progress. About to take the head off on this side. Obviously this engine is a lot more bare, so everything we've done is over here. A lot of good stuff. And we're going to tear it all down, get it broken up, inspect it, then we're going to go over and talk to Mike about everything that we're doing as far as more technical details and all the parts and that good stuff. And then we're going to take it to the machine shop. What is that?
The book.
Teardown book?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's actually, I think, the put together book.
So you can see the stud on that side. So make sure you're doing it right.
And this one's one.
How do you know? It makes sense, but I did not realize that that bolt was that big. That's brutal. That's seriously bigger than my hand. I mean, I guess it has to go through the whole head. So that's really intense, though.
That really is.
Learned something new today.
Yep. I think I've learned a lot of things new today already.
Yeah. The putting it back together part's going to be the interesting bit.
Yeah. Taking it apart's always easy.
Yep.
Alright.
Yay! The other head's off. Nice.
That does look new.
That looks like a new gasket, yeah. Got like partially put back together. Cylinders look fine.
Yeah.
Pistons look fine.
A little dirty.
A little dirty, but that's okay. We'll fix that. So the only thing left on it is the oil pan, and it's stuck. Look at how much RTV and sealant there is. It's crazy.
We also broke one.
Yeah.
You broke a bolt?
Broke one.
Oh, well, it came out broken.
It broke.
not our
I
fault.
turned it.
The head was snapped off.
Yeah.
That's not a big deal.
Could be worse.
Yeah, you can just weld a nut on it, right?
There's a couple different ways to extract it, and no big deal. Lots of RTV, man. I mean, it wasn't going to have a leak from the oil pan, at least from that seal. So, it'll take a little bit of massaging to get it off. Not too bad.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. Wow. That's a lot of...
That's so yucky. It's brutal. Good job,
Got it off.
whoever did that before.
Yeah.
So the engine is way lighter and easier to move around now that most of the stuff is off. So I'm gonna get the rest of the engine stand mount off of it, and then from here it's the flywheel, and then I guess, of course, we're still gonna have to consult with them because I'm not quite sure, but I think we're gonna be breaking the halves apart, and then that'll be that. It'll be completely torn down. It's only taken like, I mean, it's taken us probably 45 minutes. Not too bad. We're making shop noises.
Yeah.
Got some proper tools. That's crazy. We need one of those.
Yeah. This is a tool we don't have at home.
One of the few. Won't come off.
Yeah, we'll adjust that later.
Hit it with a hammer. You still got 6 more to go.
Let's take something. Just go underneath that rod.
So
So when you're taking
just
the other
scratch it
ones,
up?
yeah. So when you're taking the other ones out, it doesn't keep
Okay.
you riding up and down on the board. So that's the basis of it. So next one, I
Doesn't matter.
probably doesn't really matter. I mean, you can do this back one next. Okay. So I just,
Yeah, I'll just do this back. Just do them one at a time.
what you can do too is just kind of just keep everything
Together?
together. in a
Yeah.
way.
We were kind of doing that.
Not really.
Okay, and then you just take all the bolts out when it falls apart?
For the case halves,
Yeah.
it's not gonna fall apart.
Well, you take all the bolts apart and then tie it apart?
Take all the bolts out. The easiest way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go too hard. Now remember, like as well as those bolts, there's one here and there's a little 10 mil, like inside the pan, pretty much, or
Okay.
underneath where the pan would be.
So you do like the top, the ones in here. The
Yeah,
ones on
that book's got it all labeled out. Just do it
Okay.
in reverse order of how that book does it. But then what you're gonna do is just take that
Mm-hmm.
and just find like a good solid point there
Okay, and just
and just tap.
tap it.
And then tap on this side. There's going to be 2 dowel pins that hold this
Oh, okay.
together, one on either side. So try not to go too crooked with it. Try
Right.
and get it to separate evenly. But eventually you'll get it to pop just enough to get past the dowels.
Okay.
And then what you can do then, put a paper towel down flat,
Uh-huh.
and then put it up on its side, like on one side, and just pull the top off of it.
Okay.
And the crank will sit there. Cool. If you need anything, just come get me.
Thank you.
Sir.
Got this? Hopefully.
Yeah. Bobby, I'm a pro.
Is it stuck? Cool. Almost fell on the ground.
Almost.
2. Here's your little guy.
Thanks.
That's 2 out of 4, dude. You're 50% of the way there.
See this?
Good job. Or should I say 33% since you only have to do 3?
Yeah. Yeah, I had to pick up this
Do what? This one? Got it?
Maybe.
There it is. Yay, all 4. We did 3 right. Or I should say you. So now it's time to break the case halves. They do a good job at making all of this compact.
They really do. B and D.
Makes sense. So these are the case bolts so far?
Yeah.
These are giant.
Really are.
How do you do this alone?
What?
How do you do this alone?
I think they have
wrenches.
Hey, hold this.
At the factory, they get 2 people, one person to hold the block, one person to tighten it down.
They got the factory, some of the robot does.
They sell these bolts at Home Depot, right?
Yeah, I think they do. So, E. This one.
E for EJ.
Ready?
Whew. Sounds like something's breaking. Kind of is.
Kind of. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Here's the last case half bolt. We may have a broken open Subaru engine. Mmm.
Oh.
Had to bring in the master.
Stubborn one.
Would it normally break apart with just those simple hits?
It normally tries to, at least. It'll shift a little.
Yeah, because there's 6 small.
See, it's splitting a little bit.
Yeah, it's trying to. Good old Fuji Bond.
There it goes.
There we go. Sweet.
Nice.
That's right. What we done.
Sick.
Did I just pull up?
There it is. That's for sale now.
There is your.
Woohoo! Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome. There's your 2-liter crank.
Awesome. Looks pretty 2-liter crankish.
2-liter crank and 2-liter rods.
And that's that. So that's a fully disassembled 2-liter. Looks pretty mean. Alright guys, so we have Mike Hummel, the owner of Emerald Coast Motorsports, and so we wanted to break down a little bit more in detail all of what we're going to be doing here. Of course, the engine is still exactly as it was just an hour ago when we finished breaking it down, but kind of let him take it away and break down this build a bit more.
Alright guys, I'm Mike from Emerald Coast Motorsports and Build Industries, and if you've ever torn apart an EJ motor, this site is very familiar to you. As you can see, it's quite a mess. What we did is wanted to team up with the guys at Budget Racers and see if we couldn't set a budget, which I'm not going to tell you what it was yet, and come up with an actual reliable 300 horsepower WRX for a modest price. So today what I wanted to show you, what I wanted to go over is we bought the car sight unseen, not running, and as you can see there's parts just littered everywhere on the table, and this is a good bit of what we got, and there's a lot of parts that are going to need replaced, and there's some parts that we're going to reuse. For instance, some of the things that will probably be replaced. The pistons, obviously, not in very good shape. We are lucky enough to have an STI crankshaft, and we're going to go with an STI crank and also a set of STI rods. And what that'll do is it'll take us from a 2-liter block and give us just a little bit more displacement. We're going to do that with the help of Manley Performance out of New Jersey, and we're going to seal everything up with some Cometic gaskets when we're all done. But I just want to give you a little bit of a rundown and show you what maybe you should be replacing when you're talking about a Subaru 2-liter or 2.5-liter build.
Which is your main focus here, right?
Absolutely. That is what we do the most of. I would say 70% of our engines end up in just everyday drivers, WRXs, STIs. We also do a reasonable amount of Mitsubishi, a couple Ford engines, and we probably ship more engines outside of the country than we do inside the country.
That's awesome.
So here, we'll just show you a couple parts real quick. So this is a factory Subaru oil pump, and this is what it looks like after 100 and some odd thousand miles. That is obviously a part that is going to be replaced right away. Another thing that the Subarus have trouble with is they actually, on the oil pickup, they tend to crack around the base. And there's actually a company called Killer Bee Motorsports that does a great job, and they make a nice oil pickup, and that is definitely in our list. That's somewhere where you don't want to skimp at all.
Okay.
Aside from that, it looks like there's some newer parts on the engine. It looks like whoever this was decided to replace the water pump. A couple of the pulleys and the tensioners actually look rather new, so there's going to be a couple things in here that we might be able to reuse. The clutch disc, not one of those things. Although that was not in the original budget, it is now. So we're going to have to see what we can come up with there. And like I said, we don't know if this car even ran. So a lot of these things we're just going to go through. We're going to see what can be kept, see what can be reused, and there's a whole pile of parts next to us here on the table as well. But what I want to stress is why we teamed up with the guys at Budget Racers is we get a lot of calls for someone who wants to build a motor that'll make 300 to 400 horsepower, and they have a budget. And they think that all we do is build high-end, very expensive engines. And really, that's not the case. We can take this pile of parts from any customer, put a few good parts in them, and return them a very reliable engine for a modest price. So that's one thing that we're going to definitely show over the course of this of the build. So from there, we just go down and we look at the turbocharger. You can see it's had much better days. So this is one of the things that we had figured on that was in our original list. This is a factory set of TGV valves that sit between the cylinder heads and the intake of the Subarus. We're going to modify these. We're not going to spend much money on them, but we're going to actually do a little series where we can show you how they're going to get modified, and you can save some money by doing it yourself. The other thing I want to talk about is, while we are experts at Subaru engines, we're going to use the guys from Budget Racers, and we're going to put them to work. These guys are going to learn more about this engine over the next 6 to 8 weeks than they ever thought possible. We're going to be here to guide them and help them. But we're not going to do the work ourselves because we want to show how an everyday person could take the parts with the right people behind them and get a reliable engine together. The one thing I wish I would have brought over was a new piston for you to show you, but one of the things we're going to do is we're actually going to, on the new pistons from Manley, they're obviously going to look much better than that. We're going to do a whole series on just performance coatings. So we're going to show you why the ceramic coating on the top of the piston is important, why the dry film lubricant on the side of the piston is important. And we're also going to do the same with the bearings. We're actually going to put a dry film lubricant on a lesser expensive bearing to bring it up to a higher spec. So we're going to do some really trick things, some neat things to show everybody how they can save a little bit of money and still put together a good engine. Cylinder heads down here. Most of the time when they're done at the machine shop, you're going to see, you know, RI2, right intake, second lobe. So you can tell that he was working on putting this back together and probably had some cylinder head work done. But we're going to take these apart. We're going to clean them up. We'll blast them and we'll see what we can use out of them, and we'll probably put a good set of Manley valves in it. There's a few parts to the Subaru engine that you don't want to skimp out on. One of them being the valve train and the valves. Even if you're just doing a basic rebuild on your cylinder heads, what we like to see you do is replace the valves themselves. When you do that, you're getting rid of one of the weak links in the cylinder heads, and it'll give you a better end product. The other thing, we can tell this gentleman was actually putting this back together because the gaskets that came in a box are relatively new, so there's some things that we might be able to reuse out of that mess. The other thing you want to always replace is you want to put a good piston in it. A set of factory pistons are going to cost you about $200. A good set of forged Manley pistons are going to cost you about $500. In the long run, it's really worth the extra $300 to put a good set of forged pistons in it, even if you're just trying to do a 300 horsepower build. It's one of the good things to have. The other thing we're going to replace is we're going to go through all these old bolts. It's just one of the things in the case bolts that there's no reason to reuse these when you can replace every bolt in this engine for under $100. So I guess over the course of the next couple of videos, what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to put together a reasonably priced engine on an inexpensive budget that will be sure to surprise you.
It's going to be immensely powerful for what we put into it.
Absolutely. Different things we're looking at, the turbocharger and things like that. What we're looking for is a good, reliable 300 horsepower and 300 foot-pounds of torque and a very strict budget, as you well know.
Definitely.
So.
Well, that's awesome. First of all, we want to thank you because this is an amazing opportunity. Of course, Stephen and I are going to be going through a huge learning curve, which is great, and we're excited to be hands-on. So we're going to be seeing a lot more of you, and
absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Looking forward to it. Thank
Definitely.
you, guys.